Let me ask you a question. Why wouldn't that tenant just buy the house instead of renting it? That's today's show. Let's dive into it.
Here we are at our very first rental property.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Investing in Real Estate show. I'm Clayton Morris. Thank you so much for finding us. And back in 2017, I decided to leave my day job in order to focus on real estate investing, helping others create financial freedom, financial intelligence, so that you can be the smartest person in the neighborhood when it comes to building wealth. That's the goal of this channel. And we focus on buy and hold real estate for the purposes of creating monthly cash flow. So that's what this show is all about. Question I get so stinking often. I mean, honestly, I get emails about the same question on a regular basis. When I'm at dinner parties, I get this question, and even relatives ask me this question. Had a great conversation with a family member the other day. We were sitting out, enjoying some fall weather, having a little glass of wine, and he said to me, I just don't get it. Why wouldn't a tenant just buy that house? I mean, it's so cheap, right? Most of the houses that we do at our company, where we find them and renovate them and place tenants, you know, they're going to be in that $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 range. So you're not going over $100,000 most of the time on the properties that I buy. So you think, okay, that should be pretty easy for someone to get either a loan or be able to pay cash for the property. So that's a common question, right? Why would they instead pay $800 a month in rent to live in this $65,000 property when they could buy it themselves and then have equity and not have to pay monthly rent? Great question. So I need you to put yourself in the frame of mind of a tenant who is going to live in this property. I need you to come out of your high castle position, okay, your $500,000 house that you live in right now. And I'm not being judgmental. I'm just saying there's a lot of, I think, differences between people in this country, and sometimes we get this elitism about how we live versus how somebody else should live, because that's how we live, right? So just step outside of that for a minute, if you will. But think about it, right? This $65,000 house might look a lot different than your 3,000 square foot home that you paid $500,000 for, okay? So let's just put this on the table. Let's just get this out there. So one reason why this person might not want to buy the property is simply they can't. That's as simple as it gets. They can't buy it. They can't afford to buy it. They don't want to buy it is another big reason. So why can't they? Well, if you think about a $65,000 home, okay, and a bank is going to need you to come with 20% down in order to purchase this property, that's $13,000 in cash that person is going to have to come up with in order to purchase this property. $13,000? Now, I don't know about you, but I certainly was broke. I certainly didn't have a lot of money at certain stages of my life, and I certainly didn't have more than $1,000 in the bank in order to make any kind of a big purchase. I was scared when I had to fix up my car tires. You know, I lived and had nearly $75,000 in credit card debt. So I didn't have $13,000 just sitting there in order to make a down payment on a property in order to move into a $65,000 home. I just didn't have it. And a lot of people don't have it. So again, it might be easy for you, it might be easy for me, it might be easy for your family to do that, but there's a lot of people for whom they can't come up with $13,000 for a down payment on a $65,000 loan, okay? The second reason is that they simply don't want to. Now, we've seen more and more stories about millennials and younger people just not wanting to buy a property because they want to move a lot. You know, they might want to live there for 2 years and they might want to try something else and move to California or move to Europe or move to different parts of the world. They don't want to be tied to this one particular house. More and more people are opting to rent instead of buy. We are becoming a nation of renters. It's absolutely the case. I've done a whole show on how we become a renter nation and why that's actually good for us as landlords, right? Rents go up and the benefits are astronomical. So you should check out that episode if you haven't already. But they simply might not want to. So they want to try it out. They want to live in this particular neighborhood for a few short years because their daughter is in the local school, and then they want to move. They want to move down south and be with their sister-in-law. It doesn't matter what the reasons. They don't want to own the property. They want to rent. And that's great news for you as a landlord. So again, number one, they don't have the money. They don't have a $13,000 down payment on this property. Number two, they don't want to. And number three, they might not qualify. Okay, so even if they wanted to and they had some cash on hand, they might not qualify to buy this house. They might have had some bad credit issues in the past, or maybe their employment history has been a little shaky. Okay, they now have an established job, but they've had some problems in the past. Okay, so again, I need you to come down sort of off of your high mountain and look at the type of person who would need to rent in this situation. You know, affordable housing. You as a landlord then have a responsibility, right, to become a great landlord, to give this person a really solid place to live so they can enjoy the peace of mind of a great property where they can send their kids to school in the local school district because they wanted to be in this neighborhood where they're renting from you. So, you know, I've got, like I said, I've got leases on some of my properties for 5 years, 5-year leases, because they wanted to be in that particular house, in that particular neighborhood because of the local school system. And you have an opportunity to get the house rent ready, make sure that it's safe, make sure that all the mechanicals are updated, you get a good roof on the property if it needs it, the windows are in great shape, great paint, cabinets, updated, bathroom, plumbing, electrical, and this person has a great place to live for many, many years. So it's a virtuous circle. Okay, but again, they just might not qualify. And number four, the fourth reason, maybe this actually goes above all of the other ones, quite honestly. The fourth reason is that banks won't loan on a property like this. Banks simply don't loan on these lower cost properties. It's riskier for them. It's riskier because there's more volatility, quite honestly. So when you've got a $40,000 property, good luck finding a bank loan for that, okay? Because then you're going to put 20% down. It's just not worth it to the bank. I've talked to bankers who will say, then we're carrying a loan for $30,000 while that person put down $10,000. It's just not worth it to us as a bank, a lending institution, to go through the pain and the rigmarole of carrying a note on that cheap of a property. They just don't do it. Banks tend not to loan on these types of properties, on affordable houses and affordable income properties. But again, that's why it's great news for investors. Because if you look at a recent study out of Detroit, 87% of the houses that were bought and sold recently are paid for with cash. That leads to stability in the neighborhood, right? That means that during a recession, those properties aren't going into foreclosure because they're owned free and clear. They're not going into a short sale. So you don't have this upheaval in a marketplace. That's great news for me as a landlord. So now I get consistent cash flow without having to worry about a bank being involved, and consistent cash flow from a tenant in that property. So, banks just don't like to play that game. They'd rather be like those higher priced properties where it makes more sense for them. So all of those things combined, I know it might be hard for us to wrap our heads around, like $13,000, sure, you can come up with that amount. Guess what? There are a lot of Americans for whom they can't. They live paycheck to paycheck, or they have a good job, they're a nurse, right? I've got tenants who are nurses. They don't want to buy the house. They can't afford to buy the house, but they want to prepay a couple of months of rent when they get their tax returns at the beginning of the year. So they'll pay, January, February, March, April, okay, from their tax return. And then they pick up paying rent again in May when, and their paycheck builds up again. And that's how they want to live. That's how they want to live. They've got other things to take care of in their life. So again, when people start to question other people's finances, nothing drives my wife nuts more than that. When someone makes an assumption about someone else's finances, when someone else says, well, that person can afford it, or that person's wealthy, they can afford it. Don't ever do that. It's insulting, right? You don't know. You don't know. And therefore, if someone wants to rent from you, you have the opportunity to provide them with a great place to live. It becomes a virtuous circle, right? And that's how we move forward as a society. Not to go down this rabbit hole, but I really believe that we can all, we can all get along better by looking at people in this sort of universal consciousness around wealth building, right? That this all part of this process, that our contractors do well, our property management company is not cheated, they do well. Yeah, a tenant has a great place to live. You as a landlord provide that place and you're getting cash flow every month, and the whole circle works, right? The neighborhood is uplifted and everybody is made better because of it. So that's what we try to teach here on this channel. Financial education, financial intelligence, but also a little bit of wealth consciousness too. So, not everyone lives the way that maybe we live, okay? That's today's episode, everyone. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you're not already a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the little bell notification too, because we do live shows on a regular basis as well. So you'll be notified when we go live. And that way you can tune in and watch us and have discussions with our great audience here, and we can talk about real estate investing. Now go out there, take action, become a real estate investor. I believe it's the #1 way to build wealth. We'll see you next time, everyone.